Is it really a beautiful morning, though? Oh, my goodness. I know it's not a beautiful morning out at Arrowhead. I'll tell you that much right now. Sheesh, 21-20 loss, of course, last night for the Chiefs to the Lions. A lot to point to. We'll get to that and much more here with Kansas U.S. Senator Roger Marshall joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Senator, you caught the game last night, I got to imagine. How you feeling this morning?
Pete. My Chiefs flag's at half-mast. I'm not sure you know what a soap scrimmage is, but it looked like a soap scrimmage to me. High school soap scrimmage. You bring soap for that final tune-up before the regular season starts, so the kids have soap in the locker room. So we had the dropsies, and we got to get that fixed.
Yeah, that was tough to watch last night. And then it's also difficult to watch Chris Jones sitting there between his two agents who, look like guys who were casted for a knockoff TV series that lasted one season. I mean, that was that was frustrating. And he's got a blue hat in his hand, Senator. What's that all? He's got a blue hat he's wearing last night. Jeez.
Well, the only solace is he had the most expensive seat in the house. I think he paid $1.5 million for that seat. So, and then the blue, I don't know what that was all about. Chris, come on. You're a Chief, buddy. We need you.
I know. Ugh, not the way we wanted to start the season last night there, Senator. But on the Jacksonville next week, right? That's all you got to do.
Sir, yeah.
In the meantime,
fight another day.
Yeah. In the meantime, of course, your K-State Wildcats are 1-0, so you got to like that so far, right?
Yeah, exactly. That'll kind of wash that horrible taste out of our mouth. They play Saturday at 11 a.m. early game. You got the Jayhawks on tonight on national TV, so let's get that horrible taste out of our mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get a Wildcat victory.
Absolutely. That'll do it. Tonight for KU, you're right. Tomorrow for K-State. So I do want to spend some time. You've been making the rounds here as of late, talking about, and this is something that's been a focus for you for the last couple of years, but it's back in the spotlight. And that is the duopoly, as you call it, of Visa and MasterCard. So what's the update there? What do you want to see Congress do, and what are you hoping to get accomplished on that front?
Well, look, hardworking Americans are paying 7 times more for swipe fees than the European Union. 7 times more. So on your way to work today, you stop at Starbucks and pay them $20 for a cup of coffee and a donut. You're going to send a 2 to 3% tax to Wall Street, 7 times more than what the European Union pay, like I said earlier. So we want to induce competition. We want to force there to be a second option on the credit card. So when retailers swipe that card, they have a choice between those cards, MasterCard, Visa. All that money is going to Wall Street. So I'm trying to protect your hometown retailers and protect consumers who eventually had that tax added onto their bill.
Because that tax, I mean, you don't think about it when you go buy, your overpriced cup of coffee at Starbucks, but someone's paying for it. Either the business is paying for it, it's coming out of their profits, or they're just building the cost into the cup of coffee is what you're saying, right? So either way, the business or the consumer is losing. Is that right, Senator? You got us?
Yeah, Pete, sorry I lost you there for a second. But that's right. So if you would talk to these retail businesses, whether you're a convenience store or a big box store, their second biggest expense are these swipe fees. They're paying more in swipe fees than they are in utilities or for the health insurance for their employees. So it is an expense, and it's hidden. Of course, MasterCard and Visa are playing games with them. You don't really see, or you can't see, was it 2% this time? Is it 4%? Is it 5%? And I just want to remind consumers, they're also paying 25% interest on top of that for the borrowed money. So the MasterCard and Visa, their gross revenues went from $30 billion up to $90 billion now over the past decade. So they're printing money, and we want to slow that down. We want to fight for hardworking Americans.
And I see this is being done on a bipartisan basis, and there's not much that's done on a bipartisan basis. So that's somewhat encouraging. So it's called the Credit Card Competition Act. And where is it at? I mean, it's bipartisan right now between yourself and Dick Durbin out of Illinois. Does that give you hope that this piece of legislation can actually make its way through?
It really does. Dick Durbin is the number 2 Democrat, and obviously they can control the agenda. leadership on both sides of the aisle promised me an opportunity to vote on it. I think if it gets to the floor, it'll pass. So I think that there is a path to victory. I can't speak for what's going to happen on the House. They're just pretty much wallowing in trying to keep the government open right now. But I do think there's a path to victory on the Senate side, and proud to work with Dick Durbin. He's been great to work with.
Well, speaking of the House side, Roger Marshall, I mean, you're right. We got this, looming shutdown that seems to pop up every couple of years. And you spent time, of course, on the House side before you made the move to the Senate. So how concerned should Main Street be about this shutdown? Is this a lot of just big talk right now and things are going to work out here by the end of the month? What does it mean? How should we be viewing this as we watch from afar of what's happening in D.C. on the potential shutdown?
Right. So most likely there'll be what's called a continuing resolution, where we just keep funding things as they are. But the problem with that is they just lump all the buckets of money into one bucket, and I can't ever, pick off and choose and decrease it here and increase it there. And that's the challenge before us. We call it regular order. We would like to consider there's 12 buckets of money we need to consider. We would like to consider those one at a time and have an amendment process. So I think the biggest concern back home is that we're spending $700 billion this year on interest. Let me say that again, $700 billion on interest this year. So at the end of the day, when you're spending that much on interest, there's not enough left to take care of the military. There's not enough left to help community health centers and help with crop insurance, all those things that are important to Kansans. So that's the big picture. And until we can start to get back to regular order, take these on one bucket at a time, I just don't see there any slowing down the spending by the federal government.
Last thing, Senator, I got to ask you about this because we've seen example after example of leadership in the House, in the Senate. We know the White House. Just, older folks on both sides of the aisle struggling. I mean, you're one of the younger members, I believe, in the U.S. Senate. If not, you certainly look like it and come across like it, so that's a good thing. But what do you think? I mean, as you look to leadership, I'm not looking for you to call anybody out per se, but you've been in D.C. for long enough to know that there's a lot of people that like hanging around for whatever reason, ego, power, whatever it might be. What should be done about this? What can be done about this? As you've got folks well into their 80s and 90s that are your colleagues there in the Senate and formerly in the House.
Yeah, Pete. Well, first of all, I would say that we're a reflection of America. You see this in the same situation, whether it's a high school coach or a professional football coach that won't give it up when it's time to go. And someone that's a superintendent of a school or a high school principal. So it's a common thing that people just don't want to let go. So I think first of all, that's why we have elections. The challenge is the longer you're there, the more power you accumulate. When I say power, it's how much. Leader McConnell raised $49 million in August, okay? Wow. Leader McConnell raised $49 million in August. So he has so much power and control of the own purse string, and he can decide who he's going to support in a primary, let alone a general election. So it may take some type of reform in that area. I don't have a good solution right now. I just remember when fifth year seniors stick around in college, how frustrating that was to me when I was president of our fraternity. We wanted to do it our way. So there needs to be a natural leadership progression. People themselves need to look in the mirror, and families need to say, look, you've lost your fastball. It's time maybe to step aside. It's a tough one, Pete. I don't have an easy solution.
Yeah, no, it is. Senator Marshall, thank you for the time. We always appreciate it. And hopefully next time we talk, it'll be after a Chiefs win.
Absolutely, Pete. Always good to be with you. Have a great weekend. Everyone be safe.
You as well. That is Roger Marshall, Kansas U.S. Senator on KCMO Talk Radio.